tier list for this season. I am making this up on the spot. So I think I'm going to start... Alright, well, I mean, I have to just start with the characters I think are good. Actually, we'll do Gibby later. Okay, I'm definitely putting Lifeline, and Newcastle's definitely number 1. Newcastle's definitely one of the top 3 most OP characters that have ever existed in this game. He was already the best character, arguably the best character in the game, and then they buffed every single ability and removed a ton of counterplay. I don't know what they were thinking, but they made his passive faster, his Q can't be broken, and his ult either heals his teammates or has even more HP than before. So I don't really know what was going on with Newcastle, but that was not good. Not a fan of the Newcastle changes. Number 2, I'm going to say Lifeline. You know what? Actually, we'll just make this a support tier. We'll make this a support tier. Lifeline, I'd say, is number 2. I think if you're playing comp, Gibby might be better. Maybe. But in ranked, Lifeline is definitely number 2, I would say. Lifeline is definitely number 2. Kind of the same thing with Newcastle, where they just buffed way too much stuff. Her ult, she was already a really good character. Like, people were already playing her. Then they buffed a ton of stuff about support class, and then gave her an actual good ult. And now the drone also follows you. So they buffed literally everything about the character when she was already good. So I don't know what happened there. But Lifeline, I'd say, is number 2. I think this is pretty hard to deny. Newcastle and Lifeline. So I think the rest of it is going to be more of my opinion. Yeah, the rest is definitely more my opinion. I'm going to put Conduit at number 3. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. I was playing Conduit today, and I'm going to be entirely honest. Conduit is one of the best bubble fighters in the game. And also, what I realized is that her ult is really hard to destroy with shotguns. Because you have to shoot it like 3 times. And if you're not close to it, it can take more than that. So instead of it being completely open field fight with no bubbles or anything, and they just get blown up in one clip very easily, there's like 3 shields down. There's like a Gibby bubble, a Newcastle shield, a Lifeline ult, and it's really hard to break them. And the amount of space they can deny in those fights is insane. On top of them slowing and stunning, I just think that Conduit ult is really underrated. And also, the problem with Conduit before is that she was a good character, but in spray meta, people get one-clipped a lot. Like, people don't stay low HP for very long. Usually, they just get one-clipped or hit 180, and then they're cooked, and they don't even have time to, like, get healed. In shotgun meta, you can get hit 150 and live very easily. So having more time for the shield to get, like, you have more time for the shield to actually work. And fights just being longer in general gives you more opportunities to actually hit a Q on someone. So yeah, I think people are going to disagree with me on this, but I think Conduit is really good. And I think in ranked especially, more people are going to start playing her as time goes on. So what's next? So those are the 3 sports. I'm not going to rank Gibby yet because I want to talk about that more as I fill the list out. So I'm going to put Pathfinder in A. And I'm trying to think if there's a character I think would be better than Pathfinder. And I don't think there is. No, I don't think I'd put any of these characters above Pathfinder. Rip Loba Mirage. Yeah, Loba Mirage, unfortunately, just got shafted. I'm sorry to break it to you. So Pathfinder is good for a couple reasons. One of them being that in the current meta, he's really the only good character that can escape to easily craft banners. So if you do get folded, Pathfinder can get away and craft banners. The 150 meter zip is also insane. So with how easy it is to tell when people are fighting, especially in a meta like this where it can be really, really like bloody, the fights can be really sloppy. Third partying with Pathfinder zip is really good. Also, if you're playing Path now, since less people are playing him in ranked, you're one of the only teams that have a beacon scan. For the most, at least in high level ranked. So you have that advantage. And he's just overall strong. Like his cooldowns are good. Being able to scan the beacons and stuff like that and get your cooldown back helps a lot. You can set like 6 zips a game pretty easily. I'm tempted to do Maggie in A tier, but let me fill out the A tier first. Who all would I say for sure is A tier character? Oh man, would I say Ben? I mean, like, the thing is, like, these 4 characters are so obviously better than every other character in the game that it makes it hard to even put them in the same tier. Like, what do I even... I think I would go with Wattson. I think I would say Wattson is A tier. This is another pick that I think people... I don't know why more people don't play this character. Valk, Gibby. I want to do Gibby last. Ashe. No, I really think Ashe went down the tier list a lot. I think I'm going to do Wattson. I really don't understand why more people don't play this character. Especially now, because she has the revive perk. She has the revive perk at blue. So you basically get it all the time. And then when you get purple, you get one of the best abilities in the game. You can get the Wattson gen that heals twice as fast. And in bubble fights, you can just place it on top of your team, and you can fence up all the bubbles and put really hard to break fences all over the area. So in those bubble fights you get into that end up stalling out and nobody wants to like swing someone, you can just place 4 fences down, kind of the same with Conduit, and take a bunch of space. The Wattson fencing in the middle of the bubble fights is actually huge. Before, when it was only Gibby, it was kind of hard to do that because you were fighting around one shield. But when there's like 5 shields, it's way easier to do. It's situational. It's situational, but not really. Because when it comes to high-level Apex, they're all bubble fights now. Almost all of them. So I feel like the best characters are going to be characters that help you win those fights or keep you in those fights. Like, I don't think saying that fencing the bubbles is situational at all. I don't think it's situational at all. I think you could do that multiple times a game. Consistently. Yeah, do that while you're getting hit with 90 with a Mastiff. Yeah, but you can say that, but if I go back and watch my VODs on these fights, it's more realistic than it seems. Because people are like, oh, you might just get shot while you're fencing. Not really. You just have to do it at the right time. I think it sounds situational, but how these fights actually play out at a high level, it's really not. It's really something you could do consistently. Chat, where would you put Rev? Yeah, I want to say B tier as well. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's really that good though. Because here's why I think Rev went down the tier list, even though I thought before he was still like A or S. Is that there's so much healing, because Rev gets 50 extra HP, right? And maybe 100, maybe 150, right? That's the point of playing Rev in team fights. It is very realistic to heal that much damage in a fight. So having it be your ult, like before he would have 300 health and you would have 200. And that's how Rev would beat you, right? Now, like some fights, I take like 500 damage. You know what I'm saying? So being able to take 300 damage, or at least now it's like 275, isn't really as insane as it used to be. I'm tempted to even move him down. I'll keep him there for now. I think I'd put, and it's hard to rank these characters because the top is like, they're only 1 tier apart, but they're so much different. I think I want to put Horizon in B. Well, let me think first. Is there any characters I would put in A? Chad, are there any characters you would put in A tier that I haven't ranked yet? Other than Gibby. I'm doing Gibby last. I think I would put Maggie in A tier. I think I'm gonna do, but like Cat is good too. I don't think so. I think against top level players, Rampart is not good. Especially now with so many LOS blocks. Okay, this is my A tier. I'm putting Horizon in B tier. I'll talk about that in a minute. This is my A tier. Bang, Maggie, and Catalyst. Anything A tier and above, I think are characters you can play and you're not throwing. If you're playing anything B tier and below, you are throwing. I don't think I would put any of the, I'm gonna do Gibby last, but I don't think I would put any more characters in A or S tier for now. I think from A to S, if you're playing those characters, you can win. You are not putting yourself at a disadvantage, too big of a disadvantage if you play those characters. Assuming that you have other S tier characters on your team. Like if you have a Newcastle and a Lifeline and you're playing Catalyst or Maggie or Bangalore as your third, you're not throwing. You can win. You can win. You're not throwing. But if you're playing like Rev or Horizon, I think you are. I agree with everything apart from Bang. Yeah, Bang's, I think I would maybe move Bang down though, actually. I think I'll put her bottom A tier just because like I don't really. Her ult has things that can block it now though. Like people are playing characters that can defend the ult, whereas before they weren't. But I do think she's better than Horizon. Okay. Maggie's pretty simple. Nah, I'm going to put Cat above Maggie. Okay, here's why. Here's why I actually don't think Maggie is as good as people say she is because there are so many shields, right? Which is good for Maggie because you can queue through them. The problem is there's not one shield. There's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. And the Q is really only going to pierce one of them. And on top of that, when I'm playing against Maggie, I notice the ball gets blocked very often. It gets blocked incredibly often. Man, I'm tempted to even do that. I just think that like her ult is almost useless in this meta. I'm gonna be honest. It gets blocked by Newcastle Q, Gibby ult. No, bro. No, bro. I think you're trolling if you play Maggie. No, I think you're trolling. The more I think about it, the more I think you're trolling. She is better with shotguns. She does have that going for her. But like I'm just thinking about all the times I've fought Maggie, and that character is not good. That character is not near as good as these characters. In fact, I'm going to do that. I know I'm completely ignoring what I just said, but I'm thinking about it more, and that's what I'm going to do. Like, the Maggie sounds good on paper, but like I play against it, bro, and that character just does nothing. Like, the ball gets blocked the vast majority of the time now. As for Catalyst, Catalyst has really good bubble fights, and also her wall is good for rotating. So she's good for making these rotates with characters that can't rotate. So like Lifeline, Conduit, Newcastle, Wattson, Maggie, you know, characters that don't have like good rotation tools. Catalyst makes up for that with her wall. And helps these like really slow comps actually move, as well as being decent in bubble fights. Because you can just kind of throw it at people, and these close range fights, her wall gets value. The Qs get a ton of value, and the passive is really good for helping you reset in buildings. Because a lot of these fights, one of the things that makes fights stall out the longest is buildings. And so being able to hold the doors with Catalyst will save you a lot of time to res, and also gives you complete control of the door, which is huge in these like res metas. So if you're fighting in buildings, especially on like Broken Moon, I think Catalyst is really good. Cat is good for calm, not sure on ranked. Cat is definitely good on Broken Moon. I think Cat is good on Broken Moon in pubs, ranked, and comp. The other maps, I think she's okay. As for Horizon, I know a lot of people are playing Horizon, and she is good into shields. She's good into one shield. A lot of the characters that are good into shields, like Crypto, Horizon, stuff like that people generally play into shield characters, those characters are good against one. Like Maggie can break one shield. Horizon can ult the outside of a bubble. When Horizon ults in the middle of a bubble, a Lifeline ult, and a Newcastle Q, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't really do anything. But it's not bad. It's just really easy to not get any value whatsoever. But in terms of fighting characters, I still think she's better than the rest of the cast. She's not like... I wouldn't say she's good. Like, I would say Horizon's pretty bad. The problem is that I'm comparing that to the S and A tier characters who are immaculate. So like, compared to them, she's bad. But compared to the rest of everyone else, she's really good, if that makes sense. The gaps here are pretty far apart in terms of how good these characters are. Like, from S tier to A tier is a pretty big gap. And from A to B is huge. Okay, so these characters... These 6 are very playable. These... You're not trolling too hard. You're not trolling too hard. Any of these other characters, I would say you're trolling. I would say you're putting yourself at a disadvantage actively. Ashe, I'm going to put in C tier. She's not really good into the bubble spam. But let me think about this. Ashe was really good in a hypermobility meta. She was really good. But now in like super defensive shield meta, I think she's cooked. I'm gonna be honest. But I still think she's not bad. In comparison to the like she's good in comparison to the other characters. But Ashe was good for like I think Ashe was one of the best characters in the game during hypermobility meta because she just countered them so well. Now every character she plays against has completely changed, and she's not as good into them. In fact, she's not good to them at all. She's not good to them at all. So I would definitely put those 10 characters above Ashe. She was good because she hard countered the meta, and that was the only reason. Well, she was amazing because she hard countered the meta. Other than that, I just think she's good. Next up, I think I'm gonna go with. I'm tempted to say Valk. I'm looking at the rest of the cast though. Yeah, I'm gonna say Valk. I'm gonna say Valk is next. This isn't a character I would play at all. I'm not really a Valk fan, but I'm also not going to ignore. I'm not going to ignore the fact that Valkyrie is good for rotating, but she's not a character I would ever play. And the reason for that is that in the lobbies that we play in, the skill gap is so large that you don't need a character entirely dedicated to rotating. She's also not as needed now that there's so much cover. So now that there's like Newcastle Q, Gibby Bubble, Catwall, Path Zip, you know, there's tons of other characters that do what she can supplement what she's really good at. I think Valk is a character that is better if you're playing with your skill level. But even then, I don't think she's the best character. I think she's higher on the tier list if you're playing in your skill bracket. But like it's situational. Like that's not entirely true. It's situational. In comp setting, she's higher on the tier list. In pubs, she's really bad, and in ranked, she's mid. So she kind of moves around. So I'm gonna put her in the middle. Her Q is also really bad. Her Valk Q is one of the worst abilities in the game. That thing never hits. It doesn't do anything. It's trash. I don't know how to get that off my screen. I don't know if you can see it. It's just trash. Next, I'm gonna say Loba, and just for the reason that she's a support. She's good for solo queuing. She's okay for solo queuing. In the res meta, though, she's just super outshined by... she's just super outshined by every other character that can res. Like, I don't know why you would want to play Loba when you can play any of these characters up here. There's just really not any reason. She's just kind of outclassed nowadays. Mirage, I'm going to put in C tier for the same reason. He's just a support, and the support class in general is OP. I'm actually going to put Mirage. I'm actually going to do this. No, I'm actually going to do that. Yeah. Mirage isn't even that bad, honestly. Especially now in bubble fights, the ult can actually get a ton of value. I'm going to say he's better than Loba, actually. She can reposition for a res, though. Loba Q is not useful in fights. I see people make that point that you can reposition or stuff like that. Loba Q is just not really that good when you're fighting. It seems like it would be, but in practice, it's just really not. Like, if you watch, like, high-level people, like, players playing Loba, they're not really using their Q in fights. Because there's just not really many situations where you would. And if you are, it's because you're just, like, taking a height, which is something that Pathfinder can do easily. Like, Loba Q is just for, like, running away. Or, like, third-partying, really. It's really not... You don't really use it in combat as much as people will argue that you do. So, yeah. Alter, I'm going to say is C tier also. I'm going to say she's... Do I think she's better than Ashe or Valk? I'm going to say Alter is the last C tier character. Alter's abilities are incredibly hit or miss. The ult is also... The problem her ult has is compare Alter ult to, like, Wattson or Rev or Horizon, she's like a fighting character, right? She's supposed to fight. But her ult doesn't actually help you win fights. It helps you not lose them. Like, you might... There's like a really small chance that you get to fight them again. Which isn't as good, isn't going to tip the scales as much as just like a character that can actually win fights with a combat ult. Her Q also doesn't directly impact enemies very often. And if you're not fighting with walls, where walls are nearby, it's completely useless. It's very easy to get fights where Alter's abilities do nothing. When they do work, though, they're not bad. It's just, you're not going to get guaranteed results. Like, if you play one match of Alter, you're not guaranteed to ever use her abilities during a fight. You know what I'm saying? So, inconsistent is what I would say Alter is, but still better than the characters I haven't done yet. Crypto, I would say, is now a competitor for worst character in the game. Crypto relied on hypermobility and catching people off guard, and now that his ult doesn't blow up shields like Gibby Bubble, there's just too much healing in the game for Crypto to be good. Because instead of like before they'd have to pop a bat, now they can pop a cell. And he doesn't break Gibby Bubble. Yeah, his ult is negated by a shield cell that you can also use preemptively. If you're already a little damaged, you can start popping the shield as you're getting ulted. And now that the other meta characters aren't... Because with Crypto, you want to play characters that can go in. None of the good characters really can do that at the rate at which Crypto needs. Like, he's not playing with, like, Pathfinder or Rev, for example. He's playing with, like, Gibby Newcastle. You know what I'm saying? He's just too slow. He's just too slow, I think, now. Even if his ult did 75 damage, I don't know if he'd be good. I'm being honest. I think his ult should break all shields. I don't know why they got rid of that. But I'd say he's definitely competing for worse in the game, I would say. These are hard to rank because they're really bad. I'm gonna go ahead and just rank all of... I'm gonna go ahead and just throw the rest of the characters on there, and then I'll decide where I want to put them. Or then I'll talk about them. I'll do Gibby last. Okay, I'm gonna talk my way through this, and I might change my mind. We'll see. So Fuse is actually pretty good. No, he's fucking not. Fuse is trash. I think I would do this. I'm just thinking about all times I fought Fuse. I thought about it more, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized I was completely wrong. Okay, I think I'll start from the bottom. So, Vantage used to be a lot better in hypermobility. But now, if you knock somebody and you are not within 10 meters of them, they can get rezzed 100% of the time. So Vantage would knock people from 50 meters, 60 meters plus, then like jump in. They're already going to be full health at that point. So long range combat is basically pointless, which is why everybody runs a shotgun. Any character that prioritizes long range is going to be terrible in this meta. Also having a big hitbox makes her bad for bubble fights. I mean, we're in a shotgun close range meta and she has a sniper rifle and a big hitbox. That's really all it boils down to. Crypto, I already explained. Caustic got nerfed into the absolute ground. On paper, he sounds really good in a shield meta because you can throw your gas all over the shields. But the gas does the least damage it's ever done. And after taking 2 ticks of damage, you can sprint again. Caustic is good. His abilities would be good in this meta, but his numbers are turned down so much that he's just not viable. Even though... Like, maybe I'll give him a try. Like, this is like one pick I might change my mind on, but for now, I'm putting him in there. Ballistic's abilities are absolutely terrible, inconsistent, never work, not even good in the first place when they do work. It's just too hard to hit the Q, especially now in like a super shield meta. It's just too hard to hit. His ult is really bad. It also tells people where you are. it's too bright. Like if you put like a huge field in front of you and it was like, how fast can you find these players? You know, like, oh, there's one, there's one, there's one. Like maybe you find them. When you're in ballistic ult, it's like there you can see the entire team. Like you know exactly where the entire team is at any point. It's way too bright and way too big. Ballistic F tier. I think he's still better than the other characters just because he has movement speed buff and he has he can get better shotgun bolts and Fuse. Not as good as you would think. Very easy to dodge the ults. Already not a good character. Too many shields. I mean, Newcastle's not going to stop, or Fuse is not going to stop with Newcastle res. He ults. They throw a Gibby bubble exists. Like Newcastle sounds good on paper, just not good in practice. I haven't seen a single Fuse do anything this whole season. Rampart is a character that a lot of casual players think is really good. And she is really good when people you're playing this are really bad. She is really good. But in pro level play, the gun is just too loud, too predictable, too easy to predict what they're going to do. And especially in an unbreakable shield meta, she's really bad. If the shields were breakable, Rampart would probably be really good. But they're not. So if they give HP to all the shield at some point, I think Rampart would be really good. I don't know why my screen keeps going dark. So D tier, these characters I think are not horrible, especially in pubs. But like, I'm not gonna make my tier list based on pubs. Bloodhound, all of the shields are transparent. You already know where everybody is. That's really all it boils down to. Getting the movement speed is nice, but he doesn't impact the bubbles at all. He has no impact on them. And we're really in a bubble fight meta. I mean, he just has nothing but a speed boost. The scan's pretty bad. Especially in a meta where you can get resets off really easily. Like before you'd scan something like, oh, like thank God that guy's not going to shoot me in the side. Doesn't really matter if you get shot on the side because you can heal the full HP in like 4 seconds. So even if you get punished for not knowing where somebody is, it's not like you can't full reset. So he gets less value. Octane Wraith are inferior movement characters. Catalyst, Pathfinder, Valk, Ashe, Horizon Bangalore all provide superior team movement abilities. Octane and Wraith have two of the worst Qs in the game in a competitive setting. They're just outdated characters and they're outclassed by new abilities. That's all it really is. But they're still not bad because they're really small hitboxes. And the movement helps a little bit. Also, another thing about Wraith is in the meta where like you can get healed really easily, you don't want to be in the void. Because if you're in the void, you can't get healed. So I don't think I would play Wraith. Because like you're in a bubble fight UQ, you're out of it for like 3 seconds where you could have been healing. And like in a bubble fight, if you have time to Q, you probably just have time to back up. You probably can just back up. Seer ult, I think he's better than Bloodhound. I think Seer could definitely use a rework to allow him to cancel reses, and he would shoot up to probably A tier. But for now, I'd say he's D tier. Might be better than Alter. But his Q is just really bad. His Q is just too bad. They really gutted Seer. Okay. 5 Gibby left. Chat, where would you rank Gibby? I want to know your opinion on this because I know that all of you are going to disagree with me. No, I know that nobody's going to agree with me on where I put Gibby. Here's the thing, right? Here's my people pretty unanimously agree S through B tier. With a couple of base people saying F. Here's the thing about Gibby. I'm just putting him in C tier just as a placeholder. Here's the thing. Gibby, people thought, and what I think people think now is what they thought in the beginning of Seer meta. People thought Gibby was the best character in the game. Like, you had to play him in comp, pick, 100% pick rate, had to play Gibby. He went from 100% pick rate to 0 without any buffs or nerfs. Because people just eventually realized it was just like he was kind of just like naturally selected out of people picking him because they eventually realized that people that weren't playing Gibby were winning more games. And I think that's what's going to happen with Gibby now. Newcastle and Lifeline and Conduit and Catalyst and Wattson are more than enough defensive utility to survive in this meta. Another thing about Gibby is that, in contrast to Lifeline and Newcastle, he can't really fight back or defend himself at all while he's rezzing. So when I was playing Lifeline Newcastle Gibby, the Gibby would never res. He was only there for the bubble that was being thrown on top of 3 other bubbles. It's just too much. It's just overkill because you're always going to play Newcastle. Probably always going to play Lifeline if you're playing ranked or something. It's just overkill and you're getting the biggest hitbox in the game. Gibby feels like a liability. When I started playing Seer and everybody eventually started playing Seer and swapped off Gibby entirely without him getting changed at all, it feels the exact same as playing with him now. He is just a liability. And I think over time, people are going to stop playing him. Arm shield and shotgun meta? I don't think the extra 50 HP on his gun shield makes up for him getting shot in any other direction. And also, he's going to get 100 pumped way more often than everybody else. That 50 HP is not going to help him. I really don't think Gibby is good. He just feels like a liability when I play with him. Like, I would much rather have a character who actually helps me win fights or isn't going to just get hit 150 and blow up. He just takes too much damage, and he can't actually be the one that reses. The Newcastle or the Lifeline have to res. So if he can't res, why is he even there? I would just rather have a different character. Like, I just don't think he's that good. He just feels like a liability, and I would rather have something else. I'm not, and like, and the thing is, like, even when I fight Gibby teams, I'm not like, damn, that Gibby fucked me up. That bubble fucked me up. Right? He doesn't really kill people. He just saves your team. And there's other characters that I think do that better. Because, like, I've been fighting tons of Gibby. And I never get shit on because of Gibby. It's never because of him. The bubble, like, helps sometimes. Like, yeah, it's sometimes useful. But I just think other abilities are going to be used more often. And, like, it does sound good. It does sound good on paper, the bubble. But, like, in practice, there are just other things that are better. Like, I don't know. I just really don't think he's that good of a character. If it's ranked, I would legitimately rather have a Mirage. I'm not even kidding. But I think considering how... I think I would put him right there. I just don't think he's better than any of the characters above him. I really don't. Like, in comp, he's definitely better than Rev. I will say. I'll say he's definitely better than Rev, but I think Rev is better in ranked and pubs and stuff like that. I just don't think he's a good character. I would Mirage will win you more shotgun fights than Gibby. 100%. 100. A Mirage in a bubble fight would do 100% more than a Gibby will. And if you don't believe me, go test it. Just go play it yourself. I've played it. I've played thousands of hours against Gibby and playing as Gibby. I just don't think he's good. I really don't. And controversial, but that's my opinion. He just feels like a liability, bro. I'm gonna be honest. Okay, geez.